and I'll make adjustments to the camera, etc., and we'll get everything rocking and rolling.
Nice to see you.
Hi, it's Peter's time for his panel. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Bye.
We need Peter and then.
Yeah, we need Peter, yeah, and we need one more chair.
And do we need 3 microphones?
Yes, oh yeah, here, take these two.
Oh.
Take this one, and we'll leave one out.
Okay, okay.
All right, I don't think we're gonna take more than 3 hours. So just try and get it clear.
Excuse me, do we need another chair or
I'm sorry.
we need another chair I think,
Yes.
for another?
We need one more chair. Here's one.
That one, please. That one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Who's that
You-
for? You may wanna.
Need somebody else?
Yeah, there's another. You wanna help?
Who else is coming?
Thank you.
Peter?
I think Peter's coming. Oh.
Why don't we get started and
Let's give him a Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all this morning. Got a bigger little crowd in person than I think yesterday, which I think is wonderful. Thank you very much for our panelists for being here. We've got some interesting background going on from our team. A little bit about me, but I really want to focus on our team. My name is Greg Libertini. It'd be interesting when Peter comes back. He does work with DARPA. I stuck initial deployment of internet in about 20 different countries. So worked closely with the DARPA guys way back when those things were happening. Actually did another fun thing, Peter, just because you're a DARPA guy. I also led the team that put in the last 8,000 miles of fiber for the internet that made it a self-healing loop. So probably has something to do with the 92 countries I've traveled to during the course of my life. A short version of what I do today. I worked for a couple of large Fortune 50 companies in my life, built, bought, fixed, and sold and euthanized things across the globe, which was my primary vocation there. These days, I work on people, process, systems, and something we call make ready, basically helping businesses get ready for liquidity events, debt, investment, or sale. So that sort of puts me in this space. In any event, that's a little bit about me and why I got this auspicious role to be able to be your panel leader. All right, why don't we start? Peter, you talked a little bit earlier about your background, but why don't you kick off?
I'll let you guys start. I'll let those guys start. So yeah, not to change it.
Sure. Well, thanks for the opportunity. My name's Luis Baldich. And I'm a venture capitalist. I've been investing for over 20 years, most recently with Citi Ventures. Prior to that, with JP Morgan, I used to run strategic investments group there and started my investing career at SoftBank. Since a few months ago, I've started a venture capital firm focused on late-stage secondaries, particularly leveraging the trusted relationships and access I've built over my 2 decades in venture, investing across fintech adjacencies, and enterprise software, AI relevant to large enterprises, including financial services. Great to be here. Thanks.
Thank you. My name is Marcos Ariano. Come from the M&A sector. Started out with the World Bank, moved on to Merrill Lynch. And then I started working for my family private holdings, which is more of a family office too. We're looking at automotive and two-wheel sector, as well as TMT, or what we used to call TMT, which is telco these days, and real estate hospitality.
Name is Brian McMahon. I come out of the Nathan family office, where we've been investing in real estate for years and years and years. We started investing in venture capital around crikey, probably around 7, 8 years ago now, and mainly because we wanted to put it into a venture capital firm. But then we looked at the returns that were coming across the spectrum and we realized they were a little bit lower than we wanted. And we came up with a plan to try and turn $30 million into $1 billion. So I'm very happy to explain what that process actually went through. As I said, we have about 300 investments now. We want to increase that to about 3,000 within the next 4 to 5 years. So yeah, look forward to discussing it.
Thank you very much, Brian. So Pete Thurlow, again, host, nice to be here today on this panel with these three gentlemen. I've known Marco for a number of years, great background. Nice to be on with Luis and Brian. Again, you heard my background from the introduction yesterday and today. I'm a little bit different, not the traditional attorney. My expertise is patents, intellectual property. Quick story, years ago, worked with Congress, FBI, DARPA, military, because I was in the Navy years ago. The Congress did a study was that the value of intellectual property to a nation's economy was, or the country was $5 trillion, of which I thought estimated $1 trillion was being stolen by China. So I worked for a big law firm. I was only focused on IP. When I joined this firm 10 years ago, IP is still my expertise, but I started working with family office groups and just became enamored in capital flow, whether it be non-dilutive or dilutive. So those are the things that are discussed today. Greg mentioned the work I do at DARPA. Last year alone for DARPA, I've traveled to Silicon Valley with SRI Labs and others. Went up to Boston, went down to Austin, and then to other areas. And I mentioned I have to struggle and go to Hawaii at the end of the month for other meetings on that. So it's always, everywhere we go, I'm always meeting with investors, technology people, a lot of universities, of course, government officials from the United States and around the world, trying to partner in different programs. When we went to Utah, met with the governor, local officials, investors, and again, it's all taking the technology, trying to commercialize the IP and make companies out of it. I bring all this deal work to these kind of meetings and then to the family offices I work with, and I'll get into those type of deals that we're working on as we have the discussion today.
Thank you very much, all of you. And thanks, Peter, wrapping that up. So I'm going to blurt out a couple of questions, and whoever wants to jump in, raise your hand and then go. Okay, that sound like a plan? All right. So a couple of things changed in the United States over the course of the last 12 months, primarily in terms of political leadership. And then there's the dynamic going on about a ton of investment coming into the US, at least that's what's being claimed, a ton of investment coming into the United States. So real quickly, again, snippets and from all of you if possible, but whoever wants to jump in. First question, how has the change that's taken place in the White House, Trump versus Biden, Republicans versus Democrats, impacted activity this year for you as it relates to venture capital effort and candidates for investment this year versus last year? All right, so it's a pretty dynamic change over the last 12 months from my view and all the things I read and everything PitchBook tells me. So go for it. Go ahead, Marco.
I guess quick from our perspective in automotive and two-wheel being based in Italy, our manufacturing plant that was ready to start production for the US market as a target in clients couldn't do it. It was a matter of the tariffs and also the euro-dollar exchange that took away that opportunity. So what we did in exchange was come back to the US, buy into a US manufacturing plant, which we're now proudly to say in Connecticut, and made us tariffs proof. And now we're dealing back in the US. So what was a crisis or a problem became also a solution and an opportunity for us.
Thank you very much. Yeah, go ahead, Luis.
So from my vantage, I'll start by saying that, I listened to the previous presenter talking about all the negative issues with tariffs, et cetera. So I'm definitely on that same page. But the positives from the new administration have been around deregulation and within the venture capital sector, and being, more open to overall M&A. So what I observe is that, in general, fintech valuations have been rebounding significantly. There was a lot of regulatory cloud behind many of those names, and the IPO window has, finally opened after, lots of, issues and challenges. And there's been a number of fintech IPOs, in particular, overall tech IPOs in the past few months. Klarna will be going soon, and you saw many others. So in the areas in which I'm focused, venture capital secondaries, where there's been a tremendous liquidity crunch for several years, frankly, after 2021, I think that finally there's a bit more of an environment where you can foresee within the next 2 to 4 years that exits will start to come in, which is quite important for the VC industry to get back into a more balanced place. And obviously, I'm trying to help make that happen.
Excellent. So go ahead, please, Brian.
Okay, so first of all, I love chaos and uncertainty. It's wonderful for the venture capital space, so it's good. Second, the administration has made no difference whatsoever because we don't invest in CPG, right? Tariffs only affect CPG. We got much bigger problems. Interest rates have decimated real estate. There's nothing happening in real estate. Like, it doesn't matter if we're talking about retail, which is obvious, or office, which is obvious. Nobody has any money. I don't know if anybody's tried to get leverage from a bank recently, but they're wonderful as long as you have exactly the same amount of money in your deposit accounts. Like, those guys are just the most useless people on the planet right now. So there's no liquidity because there's no IPOs. We don't have any new IPOs. The couple that have come through have been years in coming. So we're in all kinds of trouble on that side. There's another challenge, like, and just to add a little bit of context, when we created the firm, we tried to copy the best. So we started with Y Combinator, and we're like, we'll copy and paste Y Combinator. They make some money. And then we looked at the dilution, and we went, oh, the dilution isn't so good. So then we copied public markets, and we layered in warrants and options, which we love more than anything else in the entire world. And then we layered in emerging markets, of which India, by 1,000,000 miles, is the biggest threat that's facing the United States right now. We are going to get decimated by their engineers. Their engineers are running wild. And not only that, most of the great Indian founders are going back to India. Like, that's where all of our challenges are going to come from. And then we layered in private equity. So I say all of this because, number one, it's a great market because there's no liquidity. Number two, PitchBook is just a lie because it's just how much money OpenAI are getting in their baby Ponzi scheme that they're running right now. But it's not going to seed companies, pre-seed companies, A companies, or anyone else. Everybody else has got a dearth of liquidity.
So great points. It's going to be a lively panel, I think. So great points. From my perspective, I've become more of an outside general counsel, so I get involved in everything, capital flow. On the positive side, there have been in this big, beautiful tax bill, which is a really fascinating name for a bill. Never seen that. There have been certain R&D benefits from a tax standpoint where founders can get 100% relief on that standpoint. Other changes to the qualified small business tax and other things that the founders tell me about that are very positive. So from that standpoint, it's good. When I work with the government, I travel the country, meet with universities and others for DARPA. There's obvious concerns with what we've kind of considered something that was untouchable. It's the grant system. So you can imagine when I've been up in Boston, we met with Mass General Hospital. We met with a lot of different universities, MIT and Harvard, and there's just a lot of concerns. And then we meet with a lot of founders that say, Pete, we got a grant granted, but the money wasn't released, even though respectfully the administration's saying there's no issues that the money's released. The founders were coming back and saying the grant was not released. And then even after the grant was granted, they pulled certain grants if they were not on the right spectrum, shall I say. So it just kind of wreaked havoc because if you look at DARPA alone, they have a $5 billion program that generally has not been affected just because of the military aspects and national security. aspects of the next technology. Whatever war we're in my opinion, it's technology war, which we need to use more technology. So the grant system, we need to settle down on that. And there's been a lot of people on both sides of the aisle that are working on it, that we need to do more. We can't be the thing, for my opinion, working globally on issues, is that university systems throughout the world, but particularly the United States, is the engine of innovation. If we kind of don't support that, there's going to be long-term effects on that. The last thing I'd say to Brian's point is with India, immigration is a big deal. We want immigration. We want the best and the brightest. We just can't have the borders open as they were, in my opinion, for years. So we need to do a better job in that. We need to invite, many of you in the innovation space know that startups, actually, the founders of startups include 50% of them are immigration or not from the United States. So we need to support smart people from India and elsewhere around the country to come in and start those companies, and that's something we need to work on.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Is
Yes.
it okay if I just, I want to completely underscore what you're saying around immigration, also about the India threat. I think there's also this in terms of patents filed in the US, and the number of them done by foreign nationals is outstanding. I would politely disagree very much with your point about chaos being good for venture. I think chaos is an absolute disaster.
Said
Maybe I
good for me.
misunderstood.
No, I just said it's good for me.
Oh, for you. Yeah. I think in venture, it's absolutely, harmful. But
I think I'm gonna control it.
All right, no control. We can have chaos on the panel. It's okay. All right, so let me try and move forward just a bit. And Marco, I think I'd like you to start off the answer to this one. General thought process that, based upon my business history and life history, a lot of the VC spend really was targeted towards innovation and tech sector. That's where things really started to take off. You talked about just getting involved in a manufacturing facility, essentially, as it relates to two-wheel devices. So where do you specifically, and then we'll run down the panel, where do you see the innovation coming from now? Again, we've got this goal to bring back pharma, right? All of the antibiotics are produced out of the country. You need to bring that back home. Manufacturing, trying to bring it back home. Where are we? And Marco, I believe, based upon my review of your bio and your company, most of your business is international, as meaning outside the U.S. So is this something new for you in the U.S.?
Yes, it's new because when we do design, product development, engineering, which is the beginning of any product in the market, and it has to go through the phase of prototyping, homologation, testing, and so forth. And that includes biotech products to anything in automotive, to anything in telecom services. You have to find the sources. And the sources come, a lot of them, from Asia if you want a low cost in your manufacturing capacity. And if you're localizing that in Europe, or if you're localizing that in the United States, you have to account for something more expensive, which it isn't just the technology, but the people behind the technology, because they tend to be more expensive as well. And now we're bridging to the US, what I found as an advantage, and what we have is, we bought into this engineering firm in Connecticut, of all places, which was by chance. It's a one-stop shop, right? And today, you probably know our firm from the Bullet blender, the Ninja blenders that everybody has that in home. That was an invention of ours. Things like tooling, electrical tooling that you use in construction, or when you're cutting up wrenches in your house. These are some of the consumer products that we have put in the market. We weren't necessarily known for that, right? A lot of people, when they look at me, they say, "Here's the motorcycle guy." That's nice, but that's not it. That's not it, because we're really covering the whole automotive sector. So technology in all of these areas, especially in automotive, is changing every day, from power windows. And you all recall when you had your car that you had to roll it up, and then it went to power windows, to suspension systems, battery pack systems. And so where you source it who's behind the technology becomes a key component. So as an investor, if you're investing just in this venture and just in your company, you should look at who is feeding your supply chain, because that's an important investment as well.
Yeah. Connecticut's an expensive place to do business. So it's interesting that's where you decided to go, but I'm impressed.
Just to jump in on the automotive side, I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity, if you're courageous enough. I was in LA recently meeting with some clients and some universities out there, and I went to a Dodgers game. I decided to take the Waymo vehicle out there, and that was amazing. So that to me is the future. In a beautiful car, played some light music, and I make the joke, my wife is not listening to this, but after driving, sometimes my wife drives, it was a lot more comfortable, or taking my kids driving was a lot better than that. So that I see is just on the cusp of the future technology. We're going to see a lot more of that in the future. So I wanted to mention that. The other thing that Greg mentioned is the working with plenty of companies on small and large molecule manufacturing in the United States. The challenge there, as Marty knows, several years ago, we had a gentleman, Dr. Jeffrey Ling, spoke about that. When the materials used to make drugs, and 80% of those materials come from China. So, the rare earth, the critical minerals is something where the government's doing a lot of work on, a lot of private investment on, and so on. I do want to give a shout out to Paxton and Ray, because as far as new technology they've been working on, it's blood technology. So if you think of, you guys raise your hand. So they're a new company that is, if you think of platelets rich plasma, they have new technology based on Paxton's background, where they're going to be filtering out whole blood to get white blood cells, put it back in the body, and help for healing and so on. So what excites me is the continued innovation, and I'm not focused. My family offices are all over the place, so I'm not focused on one area. So it's kind of a week by week, month by month thing of what's coming forward between DARPA and private industry. I'll stop there.
Thank you.
Can I just pick up on innovation? Is that okay? So I think at the end of the day, like, all of these conversations come down to one thing. Is like, America has always been the birthplace of innovation. Like, that's where we win. And we never have to worry about Europe, because they're a bunch of putzes. Like, there's no one in Europe building anything of value. Of our 300 investments, we have one in Europe. And honestly, it was the worst investment we ever made, right? And so I've no.
We only have the best cars in the world in Italy.
Yeah, but like, I'm talking about early stage.
Brian, what's your opinion again?
Early stage innovation. In India, what's happening in India, and I'm just gonna keep making it an example. There's 24,000 kids coming out of IIT, which over 1 million are applying to get into every single year. The greatest AI minds on the planet right now are coming out of India. Tiger moms were nothing compared to Indian moms. These kids are coming through, and at the same time, my kid's going to school in LA, which is like period worst city in the entire world, and coming home dumber every single day. I have to undumb him from 6 p.m. to like 10 p.m. every single evening. So we have a huge problem here. Our birthplace of innovation is getting strangled. And the amount of money that's being given, I heard yesterday, like Facebook or Meta are paying $100 million to some of their top people coming into teams. How does an early stage innovation company compete with that? One of my buddies working for OpenAI getting paid $5.6 million a year. We are killing our development industry in the entire United States, and that's hurting all early stage innovation that has to come from pre-seed to seed. Yeah, like India, like great developers in India are earning 70, 80, 90,000. That's okay. But nobody early stage can now compete in the Valley without raising $50, $100 million for like crap that they don't need. That's
Luis.
Yeah. I'm gonna agree and disagree. I'm gonna agree on the importance of continuing to fuel innovation and how the education system here could be better, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where the previous comment around the importance of immigration and being a lot more friendly to talented immigrants is something that we shouldn't let go of. The destruction of U.S. aid, for example, by Musk was really shameful. The reason I'm here is through a scholarship. I was one of 4 people that were selected in Bolivia by USAID for effectively a full scholarship program that wasn't paid for the US government. It was paid by my college. So all that USAID did was pick me. But in terms of other countries, I think it's more than India that we're competing with. Europe, I'm going to disagree. Earlier, Peter was mentioning the importance about strategic materials, rare earth. I recently made a personal investment in a startup called Milvus. It came out of Cambridge University, and they've been able to do what the alchemists of the Middle Ages were unable to do, i.e. create nanomaterials that have the propensity of platinum by getting a regular material and infusing it through a very sophisticated process to have it have the propensities of such materials. So the level of innovation that's out there is really global. US used to have the leadership. Now it's more diffused. India is certainly someone to contend with, but there's innovation in lots of parts of the world. So I think our duty is to continue to attract immigrants so that, the great, Irish, if you think about Stripe, come and start the company here as opposed to
There's
do it
no
back
innovation
home.
in Ireland. We got to stop this. Ireland is 0. I give you Cambridge, okay? But Ireland, worst innovation place in the entire world. You know what? And I'm Irish, was Irish, right? Nothing up here. No, I'm going to throw another Jewish word. No chutzpah, right? They don't wake up in the morning needing to do whatever they want to do.
Have you heard of Stripe?
No, you mean Paddy and his brother? Like they left.
Where are
Ireland
they
as-
from?
They left Ireland.
Where
as
are
quick
they
as
from?
They left Ireland as quick as they could. One company or one innovation does not make an incredible country. Anyway, I don't want to shit on top of all countries. Like that's not my job here. All I'm trying to say is America is the greatest country in the world for early stage innovation. There are certain places that are working very hard. And I'm not thinking about today. I'm thinking 10 years in the future. We have to encourage great people like you to come in. We got to make sure that the Indians that are incredible AI people are brought in here and cradled every single day. So we get more and more and more. And we got to kick the hell out of anybody else like me who's causing trouble.
All right.
So great comments again. I can just, I'm not saying Brian's wrong in anything that he's saying about India. I think it's fascinating, especially on the software side. I will say that from the work I do with the government and DARPA, and as I travel the country and so on, it's really, the focus is really on China. It has been, it will be, and for military reasons and so on. Just their focus on AI, in particular, their investment, our investments from a government standpoint is minuscule. So we met with the Secretary of Navy and they just kind of compare the amount of construction of Chinese Navy ships as compared to us. It's just dwarfing us, and they're just leading us and investing in capital. The focus on AI in other areas is incredible. Years ago, we tried to work with them. We had officials here from China working with the Chambers of Commerce, New York State and national, but it became such a military it became such a challenge because of the intellectual property and just the taking of the U.S. companies to China, much of which respectively was supported by corporate America for profit reasons and so on. That's now President Trump is, in my opinion, is trying to change. So China, as much as Brian correctly may talk about India from a practical standpoint, from the federal government standpoint, it's really focuses China.
Understood.
And that makes it different from India, Ireland, China, etc. India has a lot of really smart people, but the country as a whole makes not great.
Right. So in IP, we talk about it's an international system. Do you get IP rights in China and India and Europe and around the world? And in certain industries, the drugs will get certain protection in India. But we always get in the United States, and for early stage companies, we can't get it everywhere. It's too expensive. But we say exactly what Marty said. Everyone wants the U.S. marketplace. the tariff issues. We had a colleague from my group maybe a year or two ago talk about tariffs and the challenges. That's real, but you know, everyone wants the U.S. marketplace. So I agree with you.
Thank you, Peter. Marco, you had something you wanted to add?
Just quick on the US market. It's an easier market to create what we call a barbell strategy, meaning you have access to different market segments and different market price points. Much easier than any other country in the world, for sure. So when you come to the US and you put a product in the market, you can create something very high-end luxury, which a lot of you enjoy that too, or something ultra cheap that works for you. 99-cent store is a big success in the US because of that matter as well. So it's a larger barbell strategy. And what I always emphasize to VCs that come to me with product development ideas is to have this strategy in place. So they don't just categorize themselves in one segment that makes them a lot more competitive if the brand is not even known, because that takes a lot of time.
Thank you.
Can I add something positive that we're doing?
Well, if you
I think it's time. I think what President Trump is doing around data centers and chips is absolutely fantastic. It's fantastic. Like, we're building out a data center in Detroit, or we're just about to. And in the storytelling around that, about remaking it the engine of America again, I think is going to be amazing. But actually the focus on making sure that we bring chips back home again, and that I don't know if they were ever here in the first place, but we bring them back home again anyway. And then also building out data centers is huge. Because I think if we go back to like maybe a movie, Dune, it's like, this is the spice mines of the future. It's food, water, and compute power. And for any companies to be able to compete in the future without access to those LLMs that are going to run on that, there is nothing. So I think that's one really incredible thing that's happening, which I don't see any barriers to at all. Everybody's going at it with gusto.
You know, I just think I work for two amazing multinational global companies in manufacturing space, RCA, people might remember that name, and General Electric. And as they offshored everything, it was the demise of both of those companies. It was a long road trip, but that was a demise. Anyway.
Well, real quick, just on that, because I work with UT Austin on some chip design in universities, and that's a critical area. It's a challenging time because without getting into politics again, I think it was the CHIPS Act was under Biden. Obviously, President Trump is supporting U.S. industries, and a lot of stuff going on in Ohio and around the country on that. It's just from an investor standpoint, what we're working on, this equipment for anybody that studies this space, it's hundreds of millions of dollars to make equipments to make the basic chips. TSMC, a friend of mine was the chief IP counsel. We see what's going on. The technology is just unbelievable there. So it's a critical area. I think what NVIDIA and others are doing is great, but there's a big concern. You saw what happened with Intel recently on the chip design. We have 5 fabricating facilities associated with universities for chip design. And it's this massive, I'm going to use more in a massive amount of money, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars to get fab up and running. So critical area, that's where the country is going to be putting more money in. And I fully support it.
Thank you, Peter. Just by a show of hands from the 4 of you, where are you looking at opportunities? Is it AI? Here we go. Is it robotics? There we go. Manufacturing? Pharma? Okay. Other technologies I didn't hit? You want to just blurt out a couple of different things?
So I don't go after, so manufacturing is too hard. I don't know anything about it. Pharma is too hard. I don't know anything about it. I think respect needs to be given those industries, people who are really good at them. They're obviously huge, but just no good at them. AI, I don't chase AI because all of the good stuff is gone. It's like, trying not to use a bad analogy here, but the only ones that are left are marketing bots that are going to replace humans, but they're not really, right? And so I don't want to invest in that stuff. What I love are the areas that are going to be decimated by AI. Like, that's beautiful because people are not really playing in that field. Case in point, information. We just tripled down on one of our companies that we just did a big private equity deal on called Matchbook. Matchbook are doing data matching, looking to build data intelligence. Like, we love that, because before there was 4 or 5 data points for outside data sources. Like, you would know, I'm Brian McMahon, Expert Dojo. I'm Brian McMahon, husband of Sylvia. I'm Brian McMahon from Nathan Family Office. I'm Brian McMahon who has a place in Spain. I'm Brian McMahon is based in Spain, but I'm here in the US. So who am I? So getting the data points today has increased from like 5 or 6 data points that folks like Dun & Bradstreet and Moody's have had to now tens of thousands of data points. Data integrity is going to be absolutely destroyed. So for us, that's a beautiful killing field, because, and all you have to do is look at what happened at Dun & Bradstreet, just got bought out for cents on the dollar for $3 billion. Moody's going through massive layoffs all of the time. The area is getting killed. So I think rather than go to the hot spaces and try and compete with Sequoias and Andreessens and folks who actually are going to win on this because their funds are too big, go for the areas that are around that and that can actually be impacted very quick.
Marco?
Listen, in the most recent discussions that I had the pleasure to have with Luis, who's here, we exchanged a lot of ideas, and he does understand the sector probably better than I do in my 25 years of experience. When you look at the NASDAQ today with the 3,300 companies, and half of that is consumer tech based, you also have to understand that there are about 1,500 unicorns out there, of which you probably know just maybe 5 of them. You should do an exercise to try and write down as many as you can of these 1,500 unicorns that are out there creating this crunch, which have not had an exit yet in an IPO form or M&A. And why I say this? Because if we were to hypothetically go IPO with all these 1,500 potential companies that are out there, which many of them you don't know, it will replace half of the current NASDAQ companies that are publicly listed.
Interesting.
That's a fact.
Assuming they should be unicorns in the first place, and they haven't been artificially made by Andreessen, who need to up their investor portfolio AUM so they can increase their management fees. Like, not that I'm a skeptic or anything.
Talk about the revenue.
Oh, hang on. Go ahead, Marty.
Like, there was hardly any, right? But this is like an artificial look. Let's just call it what it is. Venture capital is a massive pyramid scheme. That's what we do. We call our friend and we're like, hey, do you mind just doing a higher valuation with a little bit more money in this company so that we can show our LPs that we've increased it? And then he calls Jimmy, and then Jimmy calls Jenny, and the next thing you know, they're at a serious F, right? And you have a company that has no revenue, but they're so fucking wealthy. And the founder just buys himself a house in Miami, which is the nicest house in Miami. And then you find out that, like, whatever Lyft or Uber, like whatever company, just the debt outweighs what it took to do it. So it's not a bad thing. I just wanted to add one comment on top of the unicorns, which is just interesting as well. US, we haven't increased our unicorn percentage globally in 10 years, not really in any significant way. Africa, 5 unicorns 7-8 years ago, 5 unicorns today. China have pretty much stayed relatively standard on their unicorns. Europe have not had a big move. India have gone from 5 unicorns to 140 unicorns in 5 years. As I said, I'm not looking at today, tomorrow, it's 10 years in the future. If anybody hasn't been to Hyderabad, go to Hyderabad. What Modi is doing is he's getting all of the states competing against each other in an insane way. And they are building out private-public partnerships that we can't even imagine. So I'm not even saying, like, be afraid of India. I'm saying we need to learn from what they're doing so we can rebuild what we had 50, 60, 70 years ago.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, bring us back to the unicorns. Very fair that there's a number of unicorn zombies out there that shouldn't be unicorns, but also completely missing the point if you don't realize that there's a lot of unicorns that are low profile, that a lot of people don't know about, haven't heard about, that have several hundred millions of revenue, that are growing very rapidly, that are extremely valuable, frankly, that are more valuable than many listed companies. So I think that there's a lot more than just AI in terms of areas to invest. The tech sector is vast. You didn't mention software. which is one of the biggest areas. The whole area of digital assets and crypto and the like that has been revived by the administration. There's an aspect there which is speculative, but there's other aspects such as stable coins that are facilitating money movement around the world that are extremely helpful. I see Brian's skepticism. I challenge him to send money to many emerging market places. And within digital assets itself, there's a lot of efficiency that you can build using the concept of the centralized ledger, etc. So I think that there's a ton of innovation and opportunity out there above and beyond AI, away from material sciences, deep tech, and bio.
Thank you. Peter, I see you have something right on the edge of your lips.
Exactly. AI is fascinating. What's going on with drug development, data analytics is just fascinating. It's we represent OpenAI and their IP and stuff. We just continue to learn and use it every day, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger. Quick 3 areas. Just a small plug. Tomorrow night we got a meeting actually in this room. It's about we joined a group, New York City Robotics, which is robotics and AI. It's just a fascinating area. I think with the aging population, we're all going to have just future robots working with us 24/7, especially for the aging population. If any of you are a geek like me, have seen those humanoids being developed, just amazing what they've developed in the last 10 years, and can only imagine what's going forward. So our companions in the future are going to be, it sounds like a Will Smith kind of movie, but it's going to be that. The other area we mentioned yesterday and a little bit today, I think my marks is just the plastics area. The one company mentioned making products out of sugarcane technology, 0 revenues last year, 25 to 50 million. We do have only one Earth. As much as we're looking at going to Mars and other planets, we still need to work on climate issues and better products that aren't absolutely destroying the environment. That's a really exciting company that worked on. And then again, I'm just coming back to, Paxton's right in front of me and Ray. So just to give an example, Dr. John is a great man. So they did a study with their technology just on a healthcare standpoint, 256 people, correct me later if I'm wrong, but they did a clinical trial that these individuals were scheduled to lose their limbs because of poor blood flow. We see that diabetes is a major problem with the military. We have a lot of unfortunate issues as well. Because of their technology, 70 or 80% of the people were able to save their limbs. So what's particularly of interest is the healthcare space, whether it be neuroscience, whether it be blood related or others, as we have there's a whole different sector that was not there several years ago on aging population. As I turn 60 this year, I want to live to my 70s or 80s, but I don't want to be sitting down. I want to be playing hoops. I want to be hiking. It's the quality of life that I want to. Marco knows my son got married in Italy. I want to travel to Italy more. Great country. But if we don't have the quality, I don't want the quantity.
Gonna migrate back to my
I'm Irish, so I love Guinness, and it's a great country. But after being in Italy for 2 weeks, I said I want to convert from Irish to Italian. But
So Peter, I was in Italy for a couple of weeks earlier this year too. It's an amazing place, and I have Italian heritage on my side, so no Irish, but Italian. Anyway, so a couple more questions. We've got a little less than 10 minutes to be able to go. I want to make sure we get a couple of things. I want to make sure we get parting thoughts and questions from the audience. But we hear about all these trillions of dollars coming into the country. You hear about all sorts of different things going on. What's it doing to valuations? What's it doing to salaries? What's it doing to all sorts of things that seem to be going awry in terms of price points? And the sort of back end of that, if you have time to talk about it or something, be able to quickly throw in, what's this doing as it relates to exits from some of the things that you're in?
Well, from a labor laws point of view, and I'm not a lawyer, but I have to become one when you hire people in Europe. And it is very, very difficult to hire and to fire.
Yeah.
Is the fact that there are levels that the EU have imposed based on years, experience, education. And that's the guideline, very similar to what the UN does, if you're familiar with that model, of what people would get paid. Now, if you want to be excessively nice, and a lot of American companies that have come to, say, Milan, Microsoft has a very strong presence. They tend to pay more, but the contribution that we have to pay to the state, which comes either in form of VAT taxes, or what we have to give them in order for them to have social, medical, insurance and security, becomes extremely expensive. So you need to really, if you have a financial model that is for Europe, specific, and account for the fact if you have to let go of these people or if they leave you, because the severance is actually accrued there too, as opposed to do it in the US where you may be paying more in a salary, but it's an at-will contract where, you know, you send the cases here, you mess up, next day, take your bucks, have a nice day. Don't even show up because we'll send the bucks to your house. Whole different perspective. So you have to account for these two case scenarios. Cultural plays a big role here. In terms of exits, I mean, for me to think about any of the companies that we have ventured into or we are running right now as an IPO, I go back to Pritchard. You know, if you keep your company private, you can increase the value based on revenue, real revenue, true revenue. So I'd rather do that than to think an IPO is an exit. But an M&A transaction possibly would be a good idea to get rid of initial LPs that don't want to be with you all the way. And they'll tell you, investors will tell you, I'm with you for the long run, or when the hell am I going to be able to get out? You know this. So you need to have the strategies in place.
Thank you. Shy Brian?
He brings up a phenomenal point. We're actually going through massive changes that are not being noticed hugely. First of all, founders are not necessarily looking to go public. That's a problem because VCs, our whole job is to get stuff public so we can start getting liquidity in the markets. I think tokenization, to your point, is a huge innovation. Even though our president may have stolen $500 million from the American people, it's still an incredible, what he did it the day before he became president. So technically I'm incorrect. But there's more fraud happening in crypto. It really only has one good application or two. Bitcoin is a great application. Most other tokens are absolute garbage. Stablecoin, which is built in the Lightning Network, are actually really good innovations. And remittances is kind of the only thing that works in crypto right now. Everything else is just a big old Ponzi scheme. And the only difference between a Ponzi scheme in crypto and a pyramid scheme in venture is that a Ponzi scheme is one person. So generally, it's just one person stealing from everybody else. And so crypto, I think, is very new, it's very nascent, and we just got to be super careful of it. I think the redistribution of spending is going to be huge. Do anybody want to guess how much this Waymo car costs in compute space every single day? One car. 1 terabyte. 1 terabyte of compute space every single day. So you may look at the cars and think, well, it's going to save Uber a ton of money because they're not going to have people in there. No, it's not. It's going to cost them pretty much the same. The only difference is that that computer is going to work 24/7. But whoever owns the compute power is going to control everything.
Down every year, whereas
Coming.
people gets up.
Possibly, but the amount of compute we're going to need is going to go through the roof. We have just passed a point we can never come back from. It starts with cars. There's billions of cars in the world. It then moves into like everything up in the air. We've all these super highways that we're not even touching right now. Okay.
Luis,
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about valuations.
I want
which
to hear what you talk about. And also, you mentioned that you wanted to talk about lack of liquidity. So I want to make sure you get a chance to just hit that. And then we'll wrap up, Marty. How's that?
Sure.
Yep. No, sounds great. And both are a bit linked. On the valuations point, there's a bit of a tale of two cities. Everything AI related. People were talking earlier about how salaries have been going through the roofs. In fact, Meta acquired basically Scale AI for the talent, bought 49% in a funky situation by paying effectively $18 billion to get a few people. And when you look at valuations in other areas, particularly where I'm focused, which is these unicorns that are not famous but are scaled, multi-hundred million revenue, et cetera, there is such a need for liquidity from early VCs, founders, early employees, and the like, that you can invest in those companies at mid-single digit revenues, and at the pace they're growing, that's quickly, low single digit forward revenues. I think that the opportunities at the early stage for non-AI companies have started to become less exuberant as they were in the past few years. So it's a very interesting space in which valuations are all over the place.
Sounds good. Do we have time for a couple of questions, Mark?
No.
Closing statements. Let's start with Peter.
So closing statement, quick comment on valuation. I hate it, especially for pre-revenue companies. I tell more founders to stop falling in love with raising capital and make revenue. So the sooner we do that, the better. The other area, just to focus on, again, with the military background, going back maybe, was it 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you remember all the issues with the government and Apple, how the government wanted access to the Apple phones for various reasons, and there was a fight there. One thing that gives me hope for the future is there's a book called Unit X and other books about military industrial complex, basically more people working together because of the sheer need. So if you look at companies that I'm particularly interested in, if you look at Anduril, they were on 60 Minutes, just the work they're doing with the government, bringing real technology people, real science, and not government bureaucrats. It's exciting. I'm sure you've all read about Palantir and the work they're doing. It may be kind of I don't know how to say it, but those groups give me hope that we're all working together to solve an important issue with developing innovation and these kind of companies. So, but enjoy the discussion.
Right.
Okay, I'll finish with hate, love, and hope, right? So I hate California, like a lot, and everything in it, because I just see financial hopelessness over there. It's a state which has just been destroyed for the last 10 years. And I hate it so much that actually for the first time in my life, I'm supporting a politician who's an independent. I won't say his name because he hasn't gone yet, but he's supporting no state tax in California. He had me at no. Right. And so that's the first thing. And I really hope that we get change here, because we have more financial hopelessness in California we've ever had before. On love, like I love the US. I love entrepreneurship. This is not just the birthplace of entrepreneurship. It's where the mindset of entrepreneurship, like I can't explain it enough. You don't learn it in the school. This is a thing. It's a feeling. It's here. And we're at risk of losing it. They're incredible entrepreneurs like you building products that really need to get to market, and you need to be supported financially, and for everything not to turn into this little group of people meeting in a golf club deciding which chosen child that they're going to turn into $1 billion company. I think it's a real problem, which is why I say it. And I think there's a solution. And then final point, which is just on hope, which is that New York, like the three companies we have in New York, one in stable coins, which is credit, went from $0 to $26 million a year in revenue in a year and a half. They raised $500,000 to do it. Gesture went to $38 million a year in revenue. This year, they did it by raising $1.5 million. And North, that are in the cloud space, have just raised their first $5 million, but they already got to $12 million in annual revenue. So all I'm saying is, like, we can do, like, it doesn't have to all be about funding. I think the fact that the accountants are running the game right now is the biggest problem. We should move it back to the entrepreneurs. That's my hope.
In the event that you don't have Irish friends or family, I'm married to one, and this is real. The way is absolutely real. Holy cow. My closing remarks are, we are now in the US, we're manufacturing, we're creating amazing products. I extend the invitation. I know some of you have already come over and visited us, to come and visit us in Connecticut. It's not too far from here. So that's my closing remark. You're welcome to come and join us and take a look at all the cool stuff that we're doing.
Yeah, and then my just closing comment in terms of some of the things we were discussing, including no innovation, etc. in Europe, and the opportunity in the U.S. market. I'm going to bring up an investment I'm currently working on. It's a company called Clio AI. Was founded in the UK. All of its business is US-based. It's a consumer fintech. And the company has grown from 12 million 4 years ago to 250 million today. including 100% year on year. It's profitable. And I'm raising capital to do an employee tender at a 4 to 5 times current revenue multiple. So I think the opportunities indeed are there, and the innovation continues to be global. Thank you.
Can we have a great round of applause for our panel?
Great job, guys, and thanks, Greg. Fantastic. We have a little change to the